Yo, 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 what's going on? This is the NRW where nerds rule the world. It's your boy, Kuya P, and I'm back with another interview. Today's amazing guest is Josh Eiserike. I've known him for quite some time. I didn't want to brutalize him. As y'all know, I can brutalize him. So took my time to make sure I got it right for my man, Josh. He and I go way back. He used to live in my area where I live, and he was a little bit of a journalist, and I was a little bit of a upcoming comics creator. And now we've kind of switched roles a little bit. He's been doing comics and also films, and I'm like, wow, Josh, and we've kind of seen each other from a ways from Facebook. So I have to show love to the socials. As much as socials can be a pain, it helps us keep up with our amazing friends. So it's great to see just Josh succeeding and doing his journey. But he's got a great new book called The Very Final Last Girls from Darby Pop Publishing, which we'll be talking all about, as well as just some of the other amazingness that he's been up to, because we haven't exactly played catch up in a bit. So I want to do a little bit of that for fun, as well as, promote the hell out of The Very Final Last Girls from Darby Pop Publishing. So make sure you go order that book right now while you're checking out this interview. Open up that other tab and explore. Order that book and then listen to this conversation at the same time. Let's show him love. But let me bring him up on the screen. My buddy, my pal, Josh Eiserike. How are you, sir?
Hey, great to see you, my friend. It has been a while.
It has. We've kind of switched task or just duties, if you will. You used to be the journalist guy, and I don't know why you talked to me way back when. As I was telling you before we got started, I don't even know who that guy was, and that journey he was on.
Why. So we met probably back in 2005 when I was writing for, I don't even think it exists anymore, but a newspaper called the Washington Examiner. You tell me if it's still around. I don't know. And they had me covering traffic and science and Congress, which was cool, but I really just wanted to be writing about comic books. And I couldn't be like, oh, I just want to write about Marvel and DC because didn't really have anything to do with Northern Virginia. But I was like, oh, here's this guy. He's doing this local stuff. It's cool. Let me talk to him. And then you and I just kind of kept talking. And then I got a job at the Potomac News and Manassas Journal Messenger. This was back in 2006. And I did another story on you there as well, mostly because I just wanted to be writing about comic books. And the whole while I was making my own stuff. And then at the end of 2008, I decided to make a change. And I loved being a journalist. It was super fun. I got to meet some super cool people, like yourself, of course. But my heart wasn't really in it. Like, I didn't want to be writing about the people doing the things. I just wanted to be doing the things. So on a whim and a prayer, and because I love job security so much, I moved out to LA to become a screenwriter. And that has certainly been an adventure. All the while still quietly plugging away at comics. My comic book work actually led me to my first, it's kind of a long story, but I'll give the brief cliff notes. I was doing a comic book show in New York. I just moved out to LA. I was living in New York. And I was doing a comic book show, the Mocha Fest or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was great. This is back in like 2009, so a while ago. And unbeknownst to me, a producer picked up the book. And I've been in LA for like 4 months at this point. And he emails me and my partner at the time, and he was like, "Hey, how would you boys like to turn this book into a TV show?" And we were like, "Sure, that sounds great." We had never thought about it, right? Yeah. So the next thing I know, like, I'm being ferried around LA pitching a comic book that, frankly, I only did because I wanted to do a project with my best friend and maybe get a little bit better as an illustrator. He couldn't sell it. He couldn't set it up anywhere, and this producer felt bad and said, "How would you boys like to write? I'm doing the new G.I. Joe show for the Hub Network," and this is back in 2009. It was G.I. Joe Renegades, and I was like, this is me and my best friend, and we were like, we don't know anything about G.I. Joe. We weren't allowed to read it as kids or watch the show.
Oh.
But he was like, that doesn't matter. So we pitched an episode, and the next thing we know, and that was how I got my start in television.
Amazing.
Where it all comes first full circle is this producer years later started a comic book publishing company called Darby Pop. And then when I was shopping around the book that became The Very Final Last Girls, I thought of him and I was like, I hope Jeff likes this because I had a relationship with him. And I knew if he was like, I don't like this, then the book's dead. And I had, and we can talk about this too, but I had almost buried this book a few times.
Oh wow.
Um, and instead, I got a publishing contract, and now I'm working with him again. And it's been absolutely a dream working with him and his creative team.
I love it, dude. I'm so proud of you and happy for you and having that
Thank
initiative and
you.
drive to just, this is burning me out. This isn't me anymore, right? Or for right now,
Sure.
I need to go where my heart is. And you went out there and you did it, bro. And I love that story
Thank
immensely.
you.
And then heading out to Mocha, New York, and then all that. Ah, that's cool. And then that you
Thank you.
kept on good terms. And that years later, again, now he has this Darby pop in. Now we're popping,
Yeah,
and we've got this going on. I love it.
for sure.
But I'm sad for you. I don't know if you know, I'm a big GI Joe head. So also when I cut that, like, oh my gosh, he worked on Renegades. Um,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I just love all that. So talk to me about let's just lead in. Let's get this walk to the comic book in a little bit
Okay.
more. Talk to me about like that film making transition. So you
Sure.
did Renegades, but also, I'm looking at here, you have a body of work a little bit. You worked on
A little bit.
Legacies,
Yep.
Herman. You have quite a bit of a film under your belt. What was that like? And
Sure.
did you get
Sure.
what created that drive to to really push you even more to concentrate on comic books?
Um, if I'm being totally honest, to to go back to comics, it was exactly that. It was passion. It
Yeah.
was what it was during the pandemic. I had just lost my job. I was a writer on the recently departed CW show Legacies, which was the spinoff of the Vampire Diaries, and that job was like a masterclass in writing.
Wow.
Like what I learned on that job was just invaluable, and met some really really amazing people. And it was also a very very challenging job.
Yeah.
When you're writing on that level on a network show, like you're learning a lot, and the stakes are there are stakes. So I lost my job due to COVID, which was kind of a bummer. And I left on very good terms with the showrunners and the executive producers. But I was unemployed. I was living off of the Trump bucks. Um, and and I was kind of just thinking about like plotting my next move. And I also teach. I teach screenwriting, comic book writing, all sorts of kind of writing out here in LA. And I went back to teaching, which I really enjoyed. But I wanted to be making stuff. And I was kind of riding two horses at the same time. I had written a film that I love, and one day, God willing, I'll hopefully get to make. And then I was working on what became The Very Final Last Girls. Um, and then I got the publishing contract, and I put the film aside and spent really the last year of my life working on this book. I wrote it, I rewrote it. We rewrote issues 5 and 6, and issue 5 and 6. We did a lot of tweaks to 1, 2, 3, and 4. And just to be clear to your viewers, it was written as a 6 issue miniseries. It can be read individually in the digital issues, which are on Amazon or in Comixology, but it's only published as a graphic novel.
Mm.
So the physical book is only a graphic novel. So it's 6 issues, an entire story that hopefully comes to a very satisfying resolution. Um, and I also lettered the thing. I think I mentioned that. And
Awesome.
that's really been the last year of my life. Is just working with Darby Pop and the creative team to just put this book together. And look, there's no money in comics, um, but this thing brought me so much joy,
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
especially during the pandemic, and I think that's really important.
How, dude, immensely. It's therapeutic, bro. We were all going through this end of
Hmm.
the world scenario, and we
Yep.
need things like this to keep us going. I feel that in every way.
Yep.
Right now, what I'm doing has been therapy for me as a
Yeah.
creative, because
Yes.
it's like near impossible unless you have a big budget to have a screen. You have to have so many COVID protocols, everything.
Hmm.
So to just keep that creative just bug, scratching that itch is this in a way for me. So I
Hmm.
feel that, dude. So I love that you're kind of old school like me. You standalone. You wrote it as like 6 issues, but it's fully in the format. So I kind of feel you as a fellow writer.
Yeah.
How we kind of patterned that out. So I'm curious because you said like you also lettered. Learning those other trades because you took on those other roles that generally get farmed out when you're working with a publisher, right? So, but you
Hmm.
decided to take on those tasks. What was that like in learning how to do that? Because I know for myself back in the day when I was, the early, the late '90s, early 2000s, learning how to letter in Adobe InDesign, even Microsoft
Hmm.
Word at times, and then like I think Illustrator, or
Yeah.
just those different products. Before now
Hmm.
there's a whole new generation that I don't even know. I'm now part of a
Sure.
team instead of the whole team. What
Right.
was that like for you?
So that's a really good question. I mean, I'm an illustrator, and let me be clear, I am not a good illustrator. I did not draw the very final Last Girls. But in putting out my self-published books for years in the early aughts, I was doing all the art and lettering them as well, just as a way to save money. Like I was working with, like, we weren't making money and we weren't spending money. We were just doing it, for fun. So I was like, all right, well, I can kind of use Photoshop. And by the way, lettering in Photoshop is a terrible idea. Um, but that's what I did for years. And then when Darby Pop came aboard, they were like, "Who's your letterer?" And I was like, "Me." And they're like, "What are you lettering in?" And I listed whatever free font I had downloaded. And they're like, "No, no, 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 no. What program are you lettering in?" And I was like, "Photoshop." And they're like, "Josh." So I got Illustrator on the iPad, which is so insanely easy to letter off of. Sound effects are a little bit more challenging, but as
Yeah,
far as just basic word balloons and dialogue, my God, I was like, why didn't I do this years ago?
yeah,
Like their production design guy kind of walked me through it over email and maybe a phone call. I don't even remember. And I picked it up. I wouldn't say I'm a great letterer, but I don't think it's going to be distracting when somebody reads the book and it's not like, like
yeah,
written in Comic Sans and like MS Paint with like these like ellipsy balloons. No, no, no. Like like
yeah.
I look at the book and I'm like, oh, it looks like professional comic book
I love that, dude. When you do it yourself, I remember for myself, way back when.
lettering.
Again, thankfully enough, I started with Word because you just wanted to get going, you just wanted to create, and that's the only tool I had. And then I was like, okay, let me get Photoshop, and then
Yep.
Photoshop was, oh no, found Illustrator. And I was like, okay. And then you just realize, and then when you do it for yourself, and then as a fan who's consuming this material, and you actually concentrate on other letters and how they
Yeah.
do a word balloon. And it is just like the art that we enjoy and the art in the writing. There's
Hmm.
an art to word balloons,
Yes.
sound effects, especially just how, just in so many ways it makes a comic stand out. And I'm sure you've
Yes.
developed a deep appreciation now as well for
I
that.
have.
Once you
I
do it,
have.
man, even more so. It's
Yes.
intense, but it's beautiful. Good lettering when you see it.
Yes. And my biggest hope for this book is it's not going to distract anybody.
Yeah,
It's just going to be like, oh, okay, it looks like a comic, and it does.
definitely. All right, so let's talk about how this project. So we you were doing it as separate issues that were available through you said Amazon or Comixology.
The digital issues are on Amazon, Kindle, and Comixology. Yeah.
And now collected and will be dropping from Darby Pop. What's the date that is coming out on the full graphic novel?
So actually, officially, I think our street date is actually today.
Oh, I'm
Um,
awesome. So everybody, I'm gonna actually have this out in time for it. So right now, after you're done watching this, head over to your LCS, show your LCS some love, your local comic shop, pick up this book, and if they don't have it, they can definitely order it through Diamond Previews and get
Yes,
it in.
we are actually back ordered on Diamond. So a lot of stores are going to need to be like, hey, we want this. So either that, but the best way to get the book, candidly, right now, is at darbypop.com in the store. Certainly, and that's the web store. Certainly, you can go to your comic book store. Hopefully they ordered it. We're a small independent book. They may not have. If they didn't order it, they can request it. It's on back order. But if y'all want this book right now, I would say the best way to get it is darbypop.com, and then you'll just click the little link that says store, and we're the first book right there.
There you go. But do that. But please go out there. Let's show this demand. Let's show demand for this book.
Sure.
We want these shops supporting independent publishers, which is very important. Mm-hmm. And the more books in stock, the more people that it can reach. So definitely head over, support my brother Josh, and then also go head over to your LCS, whether they have the book in or not. Demand it, because once you read it, you're going to want to show and share it with every one of your friends before they mess up your copy.
And you're going to want us to do the sequel.
Hell yeah, let's make it happen. All right, Josh. So talk to me how this germ of an idea that you have had in your heads for so long. Let's get into this book and all the details about it.
So it's funny, sorry, do you still go by Patrick or are you by Kuya?
I'm still Patrick. That's still my SAG after name. But since I've been hosting, I've been going by Kuya P, which means brother in Tagalog. I want to be everybody's big brother.
Sounds great. Okay, Kuya P. So, and forgive me, it's been a while since.
No worries. I love it. I love that you're trying to connect with that.
Okay, so you mentioned like how long and a long time. I've been working on this book for 10 years. I first had the idea for the story back in, I think it was 2012, when I saw a film called Cabin in the Woods. If you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods, can I curse?
Yes.
Cabin in the Woods is a fucking masterpiece of genre and of filmmaking and of deconstruction of genre filmmaking. And this movie blew my mind. And until Cabin in the Woods, I wouldn't really have considered myself a horror fan. Like, I like Scream, I like Buffy. That was probably about it. I thought The Blair Witch was kind of interesting, and I liked Carrie. Anyway, Cabin in the Woods blew my mind, and like I didn't know too much about the genre, and like I had never heard about the trope of the final girl. And I was like, wait, so like it's this thing where it's like it's almost always a girl. They survive the film. That's really cool. Okay, what happens next? So like if there were all these, if we are taking these films, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, any zombie movie, et cetera, for face value, then you got a lot of these girls who have survived kind of supernatural, or in the book, what we call metaphysical phenomena. And what that, and then I started thinking, it's like, well, that's a lot of trauma. And wouldn't there be like, if all this stuff was going on, the public didn't know about it, wouldn't there be some sort of kind of like witness protection rehab program for these final girls? Okay. And then what happens when somebody starts coming for these final girls, picking them off one by one? So that was the germ of the idea, and that's the basic premise of the book. It's it's what happens to the girls who survive horror movies. It's the book is very referential to horror films without winking at the audience. So it's like, yes, this is the girl that survived Nightmare on Elm Street, but we're not going to be like Freddy Krueger, wink, wink. Instead, I come up with this whole other bullshit mythology of like, a what do I call him? Like a psychic warlock who, invades people's subconsciousness. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. It's Freddy Krueger. We get it.
Plus, we got to avoid copyright issues.
Yes. In fact, and it's funny. Yes to all that. When I signed with Darby Pop, the one thing they were like, you got to take out of the book is I had a Wu-Tang logo in there. And they're like, can't have that.
I love the love for Wu-Tang though.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
So yeah, so that's the book. Been working on it kind of on and off for 10 years. The artist on the book is an old dear friend of mine from when I was at the University of Missouri. Her name is Z Crockett. She did the first 4 issues. And then, in about early 2021, when I started, making the last push, when I was thinking about burying this, or, just putting it up online and just being done with it, um, she and we got the deal. She had to step off the book, so then we brought in another artist, Andres Barrero, to do the last two issues, and he was fantastic. And then Michael Woods did the coloring. And Michael, who just found us online, like this was supposed to be a black and white book, and I've said this many times, but I think without Michael, this book wouldn't exist.
Mm.
Um, he was a colorist. I'm on this like Facebook group for comics creators, and I posted a few pages, and I was like, hey, it's this black and white horror book. Do any of y'all know any publishers who it might be worth me reaching out to? And look, I mean, if you're posting on some like open Facebook forum for comics, the responses are going to be like, "Do you need a letterer? Do you need a this?" And I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
I don't." The question was like, "What are some public? Here's who I'm pitching to. Who else should I be thinking about?" And this colorist reached out to me and said, "Not, do you need a colorist, but hey, I really like this art. Do you mind if I just take a few pages and just try my hand at coloring it?" And I'm thinking, yeah, sure. Some kids trying to teach himself coloring, like totally fine. Like doesn't cost me anything. Fine. I didn't think anything of it. I went about living my life. 3 days later, I get an email from him. Hey, here's what I did. It was a lot of fun, and it blew my mind. It's like, oh my god, this elevates the book to a whole new level. I love this.
Yeah.
I really want to hire this guy. What does it cost? So I reached out to him. I'm like, hey man, I really want to hire you to color the book. What are your rates? So I said to my wife, I was like, I want to hire a colorist. And she's like, what's it going to cost? And I told her, and she's like, you are out of your fucking mind. So we didn't have a publisher or anything lined up.
Yeah.
But no, what wound up happening was we had a compromise. Like I was going to hire Michael to do the first issue, and then we would submit that.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be exactly what put us over the top, and got us our deal. And Michael, was a godsend and amazing to work with. And then the two other artists I want to highlight are, I'm going to butcher her name, forgive me, Sia Ohm, who did our cover image that is behind you right now. That is absolutely gorgeous.
Phenomenal.
And then Ian Brown, who designed our logo, who did a really good job with that. And yeah, it took 10 years, and I'm thrilled that this book's finally out there. Friends of mine are now texting me. It's like, I found there's a Back to the Future reference in the book. I'm like, yeah, there is. It's
I
my
love
book.
it.
You're welcome.
Dude, I love it. I love it. And I'm actually, while you were talking, I brought it up on another window, and I'm just like flipping through the reader you sent me, and it's so beautiful, man. Again, yeah, the colors pop. It just has a really fun vibe. The art I like. You're doing an immaculate job with those word balloons, brother.
Thank you.
It just it looks amazing. I'm dying to dig into this, and I love the nod that you've done with like the series covers for the respective issues within it, where it's a nod to those film classics. Tell me about that decision, and just seeing that payoff, just seeing your world kind of intermingled with these classic film covers.
Sure. So I love homage. I love homage. I don't even know if I can say the word right.
I've never pronounced that word right either.
Yeah, it's like how many Marvel or DC or Image books have I seen that have like a riff on The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, or like Marvel did those hip hop covers years ago, which was awesome. And like I love, like as a fan, like I love when people do that, and it's like, well, this book is going to be, it's again, without winking at the audience, it references a ton of horror films, kind of all remixed and like, channeling my inner Alan Moore League of Extraordinary Gentlemen style, but remixed to like 80s and 90s horror films. And with the trade, obviously, Sia's work is amazing on the cover, but we did need covers for the digital issues. And then the question was, and I spent a lot of time thinking about it, did I want chapter breaks in the trade paperback? And the answer was ultimately yes, I did, because it was written as a miniseries, and there are cliffhangers. And yeah, even though you just turn the page and there's the next issue, like I still wanted a break after the cliffhangers. And some of them, frankly, it's a horror book, so some of them are pretty shocking. And then it was just like, well, if I'm gonna go up to the bell, I want to ring the bell, and I want to do these horror poster homages. So it's like, all right, well, what are my favorite horror films, but also what are the ones that I'm most directly referencing here? And some of them were pretty obvious, like Friday the 13th, not Nightmare on Elm Street, but Dream Warriors, the third one.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, the fingerprints of that film are all over this book.
Yeah.
So we did a Dream Warriors cover, Saw. There's a ton of zombie movies. Frankly, with all respects to the creatives, the Night of the Living Dead posters aren't. They don't really jump out and grab me the way that the Evil Dead poster does, the original, where it's reaching up. So I'm like, I want that. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
And then like a couple deeper cuts, like I really wanted The Faculty, which is another movie I reference here, which is any Invasion of the Body Snatchers flick.
Yeah.
But I love The Faculty, and then and we have of the final girls. Well, it's four girls and one boy, so there's five kids. So I did each of their movies, and then there was one left, and that was a discussion. Z, the illustrator who did all the covers, she wanted to do The Exorcist. I was open to that. I also wanted to do American Werewolf in London. But then our publisher was like, I really want to do The Hills Have Eyes. And I was like, okay, you're the publisher. Okay, that's fine. We'll do The Hills Have Eyes. So that's what we did. And if God willing, we get to do volume 2. And look, I mean, just to be clear to your audience, this book wraps up in a way that leaves it open for a sequel, but the story completely wraps up. I think of some of my favorite franchises that do this well. The first Star Wars movie does this beautifully.
Yeah.
Like if there was never another Star Wars, you would have been fine.
Yeah.
And that's how I designed this book. But if I do get to do the sequel, God willing, one thing that I would really, really want to bring back are those chapter break homage covers. And I already know some of the movies I want to do, and some of the movies I want to reference in the sequel.
I love that. I hope you do. That's always a fun, as consumers and lovers of this content, to see that mingle is just amazing.
Well, I'll throw this out there too, and I haven't spoken too much about this. But there's a secret in the book that will, and I don't want to give too much away because I want to pique people's interest. That it's not in the book, but I did hide a little Easter egg that will take readers. I'm being a little purposely vague, but it will take readers to 7 pages of bonus content that does set up the sequel in a way that does not infringe on the main narrative of the story. I don't want to pat myself on the back too hard, but it is something I've also never seen in a comic book before.
Like a hidden QR code? Okay, I feel that. That is awesome. I love Easter eggs. You love seeing, homages to the things we already love, and again, seeing that is cool. That's dude. That's awesome. Amazing. All right, man. So everybody, again, the very last girls. It's on back order.
Very final last girls. Sorry.
Very final last girls. Thank you for that correction.
Yes.
Very final last girls is available at the DarbyPopStore.com.
DarbyPop.com at the store. We're on Amazon, and you can get us in your local comic book store if they have us, but we are also on back order. And I would love if people check it out. Drop me a line. I am just at Instagram. I'm Josh Draws Comics, and I'm pretty easy to find because there are no other Josh Eiserikes.
I love it, and I'll have all of that in the description below, y'all, so you can make sure you click on that. Head over, give them all the follows, all the subscribes, and put in that order for the very final last girls. I noticed real quick on the cover, you got a shout out from a big actress from back in the day, Scout Taylor Compton. How did you get that quote real quick? How did you come across her to put a word in about this book?
Sure. That is all through the publisher.
Oh, okay.
They hook that up. There are on the back of the book. We did get some additional quotes. Some the publisher got, some that I got using just some of my connections,
Awesome.
and calling in favors.
Excellent. You love to see that. I love kind
Yeah.
of crossovers, horror films and then, the horror comics,
Mhm.
we should all know and respect each other. I think that's awesome.
For sure. For sure.
I love it. So you're all on this heavy push, and we want this part two, and you kind of dangled the carrot a little bit, that
I
Easter egg
did.
that about the second one. But outside of Final Last Girls, I'm sure there's other things you want to write.
Sure.
What else is on the is on the tip of your mind that things we could
Sure.
probably hopefully see from you?
Sure. Well, for sure. I have. I don't know. I mean, I'm promoting Very Final Last Girls. I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about other publishers, but I will. Um,
Why
I
not?
have a book. Why not? I have a book coming out with Scout Comics. We don't have a release date for that yet. My hope is either late this year, early next year. It's going to be a 5-issue miniseries called Charm City. It's a murder mystery set in modern day Baltimore with magic. Um, the kind of jumping off point for me on that book was it's Harry Potter meets Batman: The Long Halloween, and then I just went from there. It's
Ah.
strangely autobiographical in that it's about a newspaper reporter. It's pretty violent. Well, also so is the Very Final Last Girl. But it's cool. And I'm excited for that to come out, and I'm excited for people to check it out.
Awesome, dude. Well, when that comes out, please come back. Let's talk about
For
it. Let's
sure.
promote that. That sounds amazing, and I'm just
Thank you.
happy for you, dude. Again, we haven't, we've known each other for a while, and just seeing from afar through the socials, socials can be, draining and crazy,
Yep.
but it's also an awesome place for,
Yeah.
when you lose time and lose touch, that you can still
Indeed.
keep up with friends and watch them
Yeah.
succeed. And seeing you succeed and blossom has been beautiful, brother.
And likewise for you, just seeing all that you've accomplished through Facebook and social media has been awesome. Were I still a journalist, I'd be like, "Hey, Patrick, I want to write another story about you."
Well, I definitely want to keep tabs with you, man, and do
sure.
a better job at that. So when that next book drops, let's come in and talk about that again. And,
Awesome.
and as you just continue to get these wins out there, man, I know how this entertainment industry can be. You got to take a lot of L's.
Mhm.
It toughens you. It makes you enjoy it even more when you do get that win. So
Yep.
Congrats on this win. Everybody,
Thank you.
get your copy of The Very Final Last Girls from Darby Pop Publishing. Head over to their website. And again, I'll have the description and links in the description below for you to check that out. My man, Josh Eiserike. Thank you so much, brother.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, y'all. It's Kuya P. This is Nerds Rule the World.